Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Your mic on?
Yes. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Hello everyone, welcome to the Office 365 presentation today from our IT staff. Today our presentation focus is just going to be OneDrive, O365 email, and a few selected applications, kind of to get you a little bit more comfortable with using OneDrive and to go over a few of the differences between Office 365 Online and some of the desktop clients that you've probably been using for years. How does Office 365 make our job easier? It's a reliable backup with 1 terabyte of storage. So compared to our own OneDrive, it's about 200 times the size. It allows seamless access from any location. I typically use mine on computer here and at home and a laptop, but you can also use tablets, phones, and the Office 365 subscriptions that we get from SEC are very good. They allow you to put Office 365 on phones, tablets, PCs, up to 5 of each. So it's a very powerful subscription, and it offers a lot of benefits. As far as the managed document sharing, Microsoft has done a pretty good job of making it seamless, integrating it pretty well. The share window that you'll see, instead of 16 different ways to share, you'll see as you use it, it's a fairly simple window that comes up every time you want to share. It lets you pick who you're going to send it to and what level of access you're going to give. And that person will receive that instantly. Lately, I've been doing a little bit of work collaborating with other people, and both users can see changes in real time if you have it set up that way, which you think it might be confusing or that it might not work too well, but we found it to work pretty well, be fairly seamless, and it really helps when you're collaborating on a document to see changes in real time, be able to talk to the person you're doing it with. The continuous updates on apps is something that's new with Office 365, especially if you're used to using Word 2013, 2016, 2019. The 3-year update cycle is something that we still follow. You can get Office 2019, and in fact, that's what we're moving to on our SEC machines. But Office 365, your home version, is going to be updated continuously. New features, bug fixes, not long after 2019 drops and then Office 365 is downloaded. In the next few years, Office 365 will actually have more features. It's going to be a continuously updated version, whereas Office 2019 is it's known as a forever version. Once you've downloaded it, once you start using it, you can technically use it forever, but in 11 years or so, or 8 years, if you weren't at SEC and you were still using just Office 2019, you're going to find that the new feature sets have raced ahead, and you might even start to see some compatibility differences. This will never happen with Office 365. It is, as long as you've got a subscription, you've got the best that Microsoft has to offer. Okay, today we want to cover some fundamental topics. We hope will increase your familiarity with some of these applications, connecting with the cloud. I know that there are differing experience levels among the attendees, faculty, and staff. Many of you probably use Office 365 and the desktop apps in much greater technical detail than we'll be able to cover today. We're kind of looking for an introductory overview with a few concrete examples. I want to go over Office or OneDrive in a bit of detail. I'll do some on-screen examples of that, so you can kind of see just how convenient it is to move files in and out, and use OneDrive as it's an overall backup that I think once you've kind of become used to it, and you've accessed your files home, you've accessed them here, or as Al's done, you access them on your phone with somewhat limited usability, it's hard to go back, I think. It really does beat carrying around thumb drives, disks from the old days, or if you work here at SEC and use the OneDrive, which most people do, you're going to see that OneDrive has a few disadvantages from OneDrive going forward. Cloud computing, what does Google say? Cloud computing is the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or personal computer. Well, the OneDrive is kind of like a cloud computer if you consider the cloud to be our server rooms here and at Milford. Of course, OneDrive is stored in a similar facility remotely administered by Microsoft. One thing that I like to remember about OneDrive is that it is, along with Office 365, Microsoft's newest, best iteration of almost everything it has to offer. It's bet everything on OneDrive. So Microsoft has a serious interest in keeping it reliable. As you'll see later, I think they put the reliability at 99.9% plus, which I would imagine it's even higher than that. Like I said, Microsoft has everything wrapped up in OneDrive, so the full commitment of one of the biggest tech companies in the world is behind it. How does this apply to SCC faculty and staff? Okay, like I said, we've all used the OneDrive. I don't use it anymore because I found OneDrive is a fairly excellent replacement for it. We'll consider OneDrive local, even though it is a network server. By local, I mean it's here at Milford and at Lincoln, and it's administered by our techs. It's an excellent benefit. It offers 5 gigabytes of storage. We'll consider OneDrive as cloud-based. You know, it's fully integrated. The data is backed up, highly secure at Microsoft servers. OneDrive offers 1 terabyte of storage, which is actually 200 times the amount of storage you'll get on OneDrive. You'll find, I think, that most SCC PCs actually only have 250 gigabytes available. So your PC hard drive will run out of room before your OneDrive does. Of course, the OneDrive, you cannot access it at home. You need to have a VPN. Many have those, but it's a forum request, and it's usually only available to those with a business need. OneDrive is accessible anywhere: phone, tablet, home, work, and it does seamlessly integrate. OneDrive is always network dependent. If our OneDrive network goes down, you cannot access. Usually, you cannot access or you can't save to the OneDrive. Now, our techs are excellent, and they will get it fixed very quickly in most cases. But this is something that you will not have to worry about with OneDrive, especially if you sync your files to the PC. Okay, I'm going to do yes, sir.
What about syncing files from like the O drive? Does it just have to be the local computer?
The O drive, you can't do an automatic sync from the O drive. You can pull files from the O drive, and you could do that. But then after you finish it, it would be synced on your OneDrive and still in your O drive. That O drive, basically, if you worked on the OneDrive version in your desktop OneDrive folder, those would be updated, but the ones in your O drive would not. So by doing that, you create 2 copies, which might not be a bad idea, but it might just be easier or better in most cases to move it all to the OneDrive and leave the O drive behind, unless it's obviously if it's staff shared or something like that.
That's the deal.
Yeah, that you will not be able to sync. Something like that, you can make working copies, but yeah, you cannot sync a OneDrive, a staff O to your OneDrive. Okay, I'm going to, in order for this to be as complete as possible, I have not installed OneDrive on this machine. Let me go ahead and attempt to do so.
Okay, the one thing I want to just confirm is that you have to put the @Southeast. Most people just log in with number, and they don't put @Southeast, so they would not be able to access.
You would have to put @southeast.edu. That is correct.
Because it needs to identify you with this.
Yeah, that your @southeast.edu is going to be required for most of these integrated Microsoft accounts. Logging into the machine, it's still just the initials and 6 numbers. But yeah, for this, you do need the @southeast.edu. I have a 2-factor authentication that they made me use. So give me just a moment while I log into that. And hit approve. Thank you. Goes over a few things when you first log on.
Did you find where this comes
For what I did to get this is you see the search bar in the bottom? I just hit that, typed in OneDrive. It's on Windows 10, but it's not signed in yet in your regular machine unless you do this step. Now here,
I don't understand what you just said.
well, the OneDrive app is waiting to be used on Windows 10, as you can see there. But until we complete this step, you won't have the full access that I'm going to show you. So this is part of the process of actually signing into OneDrive and syncing your OneDrive web contents onto this machine. That makes sense? Or your computer, yeah. In this case, once I'm done with this, I will have access to my OneDrive both in the cloud and it will be locally on the C drive of this machine as well, which does give the advantage of being able to access it even if I lose network. Yes, sir.
So many years ago, I started using the personal OneDrive that I had. It's 5 gigabytes, and it is on my work computer. And I can't seem to figure out how to switch to the one the college is offering now. That's much bigger.
Is it still limited to 5 gigabytes on your computer? Yes. For that, I would recommend just calling the help desk. We'll remote in and we'll take you through that. And we'll have the number for that too at the end of the presentation. That's a great question. Your Southeast one is 1 terabyte, 200 times the size. Absolutely, just give us a call. So the first thing it's asking me right now is sync your OneDrive files to this PC. I'm going to do this. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this on a computer that you just walk into a lab and are going to use for that day. Obviously, at your desktop, your home machine, you'll want this. Hit next. Share files and folders. The mobile app, we're not going to do that right now. Open my OneDrive folder. I'm in my local OneDrive right now. Let me expand it a little bit. Change the view to icon. So what I've just done is taken everything that was on the server at Microsoft and synced it to my PC. These are the files that I've been working on for the last several several weeks, several months. I think I fully started using this maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I switched everything from my desktop. Let me show you a few things about dragging and dropping versus cutting and pasting in the local OneDrive folder. And I know that for me, it was very easy to kind of lose my way between what's online and what's on my PC. And it's important because if you miss that, the last thing you want to be doing is working on a document that's local and not synced, thinking that you're ready to go, arrive, at a remote area where you're going to access it and have an older copy. So I think some of what we want to go through here should make it easier to avoid that. Once again, let's close this. Okay, so I want to access my OneDrive. Do you see the cloud icon on the bottom right? OneDrive, Southeast Community College, up to date. That shows that I am logged in on my Southeast Community College account, which you will want to be because that is the one that gives you your full 1 terabyte, up to date. From time to time, when you're moving large files, you'll see a little, it's kind of hard to, it's not happening right now, but you'll see a little chasing arrow icon. That just means it's updating. I've tested it out quite a bit, and the updating can take a while, but Microsoft has done you don't have to hang out at your computer for an hour or two waiting for this to update. I've dropped files, large 10 megabyte files, signed out as soon as I dropped them in, and then I've been able to retrieve them from the web elsewhere. You'll want to, keep an eye on something like that if it's very important, but this process works very quickly. But anyway, let's open our OneDrive folder. This is my favorite way to get in because you can view your, you can view your online OneDrive, excuse me, or your open folder locally. Oh, sure. Sorry, folks, hold on just a moment. Yes, sir.
Why did you ever use OneDrive local? Or do you have to download a computer?
The main reason that you would do that, you don't have to, but it provides a physical backup. If you do it locally and your actual network drops out, you can still use those files, which is completely different from what happens if your N drive drops out. everything that I've got on there, if we were to remove the wireless adapter and unplug this PC, I would be able to use. So it's not a strict requirement. There's a lot of people who do not sync it to the PC, but I would recommend it in most cases.
You have to have internet access.
You have to have internet access to sync it, but you do not have to have internet access to use the files if it's synced to the PC. Otherwise, you would. To access your OneDrive strictly on a cloud basis, you do need to be online.
The real beauty of it is if you do sync it and have that local copy on your laptop, let's say, for example, and you don't have internet access, you can work on all those files, update them, add to them, do whatever you want. The next time you're connected to the internet, it synchronizes all your copies. So if you have it on your home PC, your laptop, a desktop, your phone, all those copies are all synced
Do I have
together.
to tell it to sync it?
You have to install this OneDrive app to sync it.
So then after that, it'll automatically, if that scenario happens, then a bunch of work locally. Later, when I reestablish internet connection, it'll automatically sync that.
Yes, it will. Yeah. So as soon as you install the OneDrive app on whatever device, it will automatically look for that most recent copy, update, keep them all in sync. So that's a real advantage.
Okay, can I run through the scenario though?
Okay,
Okay, so I teach Microsoft apps, and that's what I have all my students do.
correct.
So, and I have them set that up on the computer they're at in the classroom. And so now, when they go home and they want to go to the OneDrive, they have to have internet access so they can then sync it to the OneDrive on the local computer, whether it's a laptop. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So then the login process is still the same.
Yeah, they log into their computer. So the question was if the student used OneDrive where they're in school and installed it to their local PC in their lab, when they go home, how do they access those same files? They would have to go to their home PC, install the OneDrive app. That would bring those files from the Microsoft Cloud down to their home PC, so then they can use them locally on that PC. And if they updated those files on the home PC, that would also then synchronize back up to the Microsoft Cloud. If they sat at that same computer in their lab, logged in as themselves, then they'd have access to that locally on that computer as well.
That seems to be the one problem I have with students, that they don't get what they're supposed to do.
Yes, I can see
So they would just go down again, search for one.
Question in the back.
So if the bar, the class bar, so if they go home, they log into the hub to download the app, or just on their computer, they just search for it?
Okay, the question was when they go home, what do they do? How do they get those files? So yes, I would recommend they go to the hub first just to log into the hub, but then they click on their Office 365 link, and Matt could show you that as well, and then demo later. And then at that point, once they're on the Office 365 cloud, they go to OneDrive, download the app from that point, and then it synchronizes.
And
And
that's
that,
really how we would also do it for us.
yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
exactly how any
Okay.
staff member or employee would do it.
I have an earlier version of Windows that looks nothing like this. I mean, this is my laptop, right? I mean, this is what I use all the time. I can't find any. I don't know if it's-
And that is a challenge we all run into. All the different versions of Windows that we have slightly different nuances, but we can figure that out. We can help you through those. And as Matt said, or as we'll say, we're here to help you. So if we need to remote to your computer, we need to come see you in person, that's what we do.
You
So-
see me in person afterwards?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Matt, sorry.
Thank you.
To your question though, when I first, like Al was saying, there are several ways to get the OneDrive app installed on your machine, but that's why for me, I typed in OneDrive and then loaded it from there. Now that it's already on, it's not going to go through the sync process, but if you recall when I first did that, it did give me an option to sync. It pulled up everything that was in my OneDrive folder, and all I had to do is click yes, and then there's a local copy. And after that's done, I get this little cloud icon on the bottom, and that's how I know that this PC is synced to my OneDrive. You can absolutely access it from online only, but I do like the sync step. I do like a local copy on any machine that you're regularly going to be using. Let's see if we can do a demonstration on how powerful this can be. I'm going to open my local folder. This is actually on the C drive and in the cloud. Let me get a view that it might be a little easier to work with. I'm going to drag a file from my desktop into my local folder. And there it is. And you see it took a brief period of time before that green check mark came up and it synced. Let's open it from this location. It's just a pretty simple spreadsheet file. Close that. Save. Now I've made a modification on the file that is on my OneDrive. One important thing, you see this is where the file used to be. It is no longer on the desktop. It's on my C drive. It's on this local machine, but now it's accessed through the OneDrive application in the OneDrive folder. It's kind of a subtle distinction, but it is important. I'm going to close this all out. I'm going to open the online version of OneDrive. I'm going to open that, and you can see that whatever opens.
But if you're synced, there's no good reason to work on it online if you're at your computer.
I wouldn't know. Normally I would work with the full-fledged desktop apps. One thing that you have to be careful of on your computer, and that's a great question. I want to cover this. If you open Office 2019 in Word on this computer, in fact, let's do that. Let's open a file. Well, I'm sorry, this one is not synced yet. Let's redo that. Okay, so that has updated. So yeah, once it's on your OneDrive, once you open it, you can work on it, and it's going to sync. Any changes you make, any changes you save are going to be on both the cloud and your OneDrive folder. So yeah, I don't see any reason the OneDrive app accessed online or the Office 365 online app if you're at your normal machine. You probably only use that on a laptop remotely or a different computer. Does that kind of get at what you were asking?
So like, my regular classroom, I go ahead and put it on locally and all that.
Sure.
It's the question, if I was at some random computer, I could still get to it and then I should work on it.
Yes, I would say. Unless you want to sign in and install the desktop apps, which are probably going to be on there. If you sign in, you can use it on that local computer with the desktop apps, but on a random computer, yeah, I would just stick with the online version in most cases.
Online, it's still there. It just means it's not also local.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Unless you download the OneDrive app and sign in, as we did before. Or, I'm sorry, you do not have to download it. It's on Windows 10, but in order to have it be local, you have to sign in. And you can access this in another manner that Al described earlier, and I'll show you. You have to sign in, and you have to choose sync. Another way that Al and I had talked about to download this, go into your OneDrive app, and there's a Get the OneDrive Apps icon on the bottom. Now, I won't need to do this on this PC. This would be a meaningless step for me now since I have synced it locally.
So the OneDrive apps, though, are the abbreviated forms?
It's the same thing. That's what I had to do on Ken's actually, because he has Windows 7. Windows 7 doesn't natively have the OneDrive app on it. So Ken went to that link, clicked on it, and downloaded the app.
Yes.
So all Windows 10 have access to OneDrive.
All Windows 10 has OneDrive pre-installed, yes.
So if I have Windows 10 on my machine at home, it's pre-installed.
The app is pre-installed, but you do need to sign in.
But I signed through Southeast Community College and do what you did.
Exactly.
Now, if I'm just using the computer, I think this was already answered. I'm just using the computer someplace else. I can go on to the OneDrive, say someplace else in the college, I can go on to OneDrive, just open up the,
Absolutely. I'll show you how right now. All you'd have to do is sign into the hub as normal. Click this Office 365 button. It'll pull up your email by default, but if you go to the waffle on Outlook, select OneDrive, you will have access to
everything that's in my OneDrive.
exactly from
It doesn't stay on that machine.
No, not accessed from this manner.
So these, once, if you're using the web interface, and this is what I call the web or browser interface for OneDrive, the cumbersome part of this, if you do want to work with a file, you either open it up online or you download it to the local PC one at a time. But again, nothing goes to your PC unless you manually download it. The beauty of, if it's on your work PC or your home PC, the beauty of installing the OneDrive app is if you go to your file explorer, all those files show up just like the C drive or the N drive or whatever drive we're talking about, so you don't have to go online. If you just go to the file folder like Matt's doing here, on the left-hand navigation there, you see that OneDrive Southeast Community College. So it really appears as local files to your computer, to the operating system.
And Matt, I have a question somewhere online. They're asking, so do they have to move, manually copy my entire N drive to the OneDrive, or is it done automatically?
They would have to do that automatically.
Or
manually.
I'm sorry, yes, they would have to manually do that, and then it would not sync with the local N drive, of course. Yes,
We,
sir.
the business department, are displaced, have no access to our actual computers, desktops. So if I sign on to OneDrive at home, then I could access from another computer. If I signed on officially at home, then I could access the OneDrive from the computer at the school someplace.
Yep. Through the web or
Through the web
browser.
interface. Yeah, and that's,
Would you go back that way for a minute, Matt?
oh, sure, you bet.
Okay, so
You want the view online or the,
the
no,
folder you just had open.
I think we had access it through the file explorer like I was talking
Okay,
about.
so explain to all of us
Yes.
the difference between the OneDrive and the because that confuses me.
Okay, that is the Hotmail, the personal side of OneDrive.
The
So-
OneDrive without the.
So if you do have a Hotmail account or an Outlook account that's not the school account, that's what that small OneDrive by itself is. So you log in as, Joe Blow at hotmail.com, and then you get your 5 meg storage or giga storage. They give you, I think it's up to 100 now. Mine, I have a personal one and it's 120.
And you'll know you're in the wrong place right away because you'll see older files, your personal stuff, instead of the normal SEC items that you're looking for.
Can anybody get a personal OneDrive?
Yep.
Is it free or does it cost?
It's free. You get an Outlook account or a Hotmail account, same thing. So you just go to outlook.com, sign up for an email address, and you get it. And then you could install that, like my phone, that's what I do with my phone pictures. They're all synced to the personal Hotmail.
Now, this is a thorny question, of course, but many places have, official policies about putting your own stuff, like pictures or whatever, on work assets.
Right now, we don't have any policy that prevents that. What you really want to stay away from is any personal identifiable information on any device at all. But it's regulated by you. Yes.
You want to move, if the student wants to move something that they have on their cell to their personal, drag and drop.
Yes. If they're both synchronized here, they are. If they're not synchronized, that's cumbersome because they would have to go onto their browser interface, download it all locally someplace, and then upload it back to the Southeast account or vice versa. So if you don't have
Logging
that,
to both of them at the same time.
yes, you could. Yeah. It's a little bit trickier because then you have to do the in-private window browsing with your browser. You could have 2 sessions.
the local file folder that I'm in right now, access through, there's so many different ways to access it. I love this little cloud because right here, I can get to where I would otherwise need to go via the hub, the login. You do have to be logged in, but I click that and I'm on my OneDrive online. I click just to the left and I'm on my local folder.
Which is the same as open up the little file folder and there's tools
Yeah.
right there.
Are you talking about the File Explorer? Yeah, there's any number of ways to get to it. You can pin it to your taskbar. You can do that. Now we've got it one click in my OneDrive. OneDrive locally does behave. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's your OneDrive bar, the blue bar that you were clicking on. That if you're only with Windows 10 or I have Windows 7 at home.
It appears with Windows 7. I use Windows 7 at home as well, and OneDrive works great for me there. You do want to get that cloud. That won't appear unless you have synced your local PC to your OneDrive folder. Let me show you a couple different ways that the local folder acts that the online version doesn't. Let's say this is all the documents that are precious to me for my career at Southeast. If I drag this in here, takes a little while to sync. You can see the chasing arrows. It's not on the desktop, but it is still on my folder. And that's how I usually like to sync files. I like to use the local app, drag them in there because they behave so predictably. Where did it go? All my documents. Drag it out. Now it's not synced. Throw it back in there. It's all it takes to sync a document. Takes it off the desktop, so you don't have a copy that you could open by mistake or think that you're working on a synced copy. The only way to get it now, File Explorer, shortcut, OneDrive open folder. Everything I do in here now is going to be fully synced, web, local. Now I'm going to close this out. I'm going to open it online. It behaves quite a bit differently, and it's just something you want to remember. I pretty much dragged. I'm sorry. To make it a little bit better of a demonstration, bear with me here. I'm going to pull all of my documents back out, throw them onto the desktop. Now they're off OneDrive, and I'm going to go online, and we'll look at a couple of the differences. It's not a huge difference, but it could be important. Upload. Okay, I'm going to upload a folder. I'm going to upload all my documents. I'm going to select that folder. And there it is. All my documents. You see that the three little blue lines there? That's just Microsoft's way of indicating that it's a new file. From here on out, though, you can see that it's still on the desktop. All I've done is copy and paste, essentially. If I open this, make a bunch of changes, that was Doc 2. They're not on here. So it's just something you want to remember.
The changes doesn't take it back
Do not. This one is not synced anymore
because you took it off.
because I uploaded it from the online version. And I think it's fairly straightforward. If you can see it in two places, it's probably not synced. But going back, that's why I usually work in the open folder locally. You don't have to, but I mean, okay, now it's got I'm going to replace it. It still had the one that I uploaded. But are there any questions on that between the online version of uploading or downloading another? Let's go. If you want to make a copy and you're on the online version, or you want to download a copy, it's fairly straightforward. You can't drag and drop out of this. It does really not let you do that. However, if I want my Excel random document, click document, download, save, and then it just
Set up to go to the download folder.
Yeah, it should. Oops, sorry. Bear with me, folks. Let me try that again.
The open folder.
Oh, there it is. It was there. It's zipped. That's right. Thank you. I forgot about that. It'll zip a folder. So instead of showing it, there's my Excel random document. So like I say, it behaves pretty differently whether you're on the online version or you're using your file explorer. It's just something to remember.
So if you're using the online version, you have to upload and download your file.
Yes, you
It's
cannot
not a
drag.
syncing thing at all.
You can drag in. That's a great question. You can drag in. So let me close the local folder and I'll drag sample text and it'll make a copy of sample text. But it won't sync, but it'll still leave this one. It's basically a cut and paste function. You can still drag, but it's not dropping. It's just copying.
But if you do it to the local one, then it syncs.
Exactly. So switching back to that, and it'll pull it off the,
It'll disappear.
well, in this
because you
case,
basically moved it.
exactly. You can certainly work with both. You just want to be aware of the differences in how both of them act and what kind of result you're getting from that. Let me see if there's any. I want to cover sharing. This is one of the most powerful features of OneDrive. We've seen that you can work in real time. You can actually see edits and changes being made by other people, and that might sound like it's something that what's going on, but it works rather well. Try to. Sharing is something that I actually usually recommend doing from the online version of it. Okay, I want to share my, oh, there's nothing. I want to share Excel random doc, click, share, and I had mentioned a window. Microsoft has done a good job of standardizing this window. It's fairly straightforward. Share this with my boss. There we go. Mary's going to get an email that will give her access to that document online. She can make copies of it. One thing you want to remember is that the sharing function does have some options. If I click the anyone with this link can edit, I can disallow editing. I can do some more specific things that we won't go into, but I can give just certain features to just certain people. It's very powerful.
Now,
But in this case, I'll allow editing.
I know, I mean, all of us, many of us, most of us are new to Canvas, but my understanding is you can put links from external resources into Canvas. So is this a potential way to, rather than say uploading files I want my students to get to Canvas correctly, could I instead put the files I want them to have in OneDrive and then link OneDrive to Canvas? So that way, when I change things, my students would immediately have access to the updated version.
The short answer is yes. Al, do you know where we're at with the full integration of Canvas and OneDrive?
The full integration isn't there yet with the single sign-on, but you can still embed links. So if you go and get a link for that file, you can put those links in your Canvas.
I mean, that sounds better than putting it in Canvas directly, because then I don't have to keep changing it on my computer and then re-uploading it to Canvas. I mean, am I missing something? No, that seems like that's way better than putting a copy in Canvas if instead my students have a link to the actual document that I messed with.
That's something you probably just need to work out with the instruction plan. You know how they do that.
So you're saying ask somebody else?
Well, no.
Oh, well,
I want to know what
yeah. Either one. We can help you where they can help you.
Do you see the anyone with this link function? I do know that if you check that, whether you send it by email, anybody who has that link will have access to your document. So they would have full sharing rights. But I do believe they're still kind of ironing out some of the Canvas and OneDrive integration. I do know that anyone that gets that link, whether by an email to a student, a Canvas message, the link is what gives them the sharing right to that file. And you could give them editing or non-editing rights too. So,
Right, so I think like editing, they can just see it and that's it.
well, yeah, but you can add editing. It's all, it depends on how much access you want them to have. So you are in control of that process.
Right, so I don't want my students to edit, I just want them to see, I can uncheck editing.
Absolutely. Yeah, then they'd have access with that link, as long as that link is enabled. Yes, sir.
Just want one person, you specify city person. Like you did with.
Yeah, if you wanted some people to have access without editing, some people have access
Or
with
if I just
editing.
want one person to see it.
Oh, then just share it with one person. Like in this case, if I just send this to Mary, she's the only one. However, what's also nice is that if I open the document, hit share, and manage access, it hasn't updated yet, but after I've shared that with my boss, she will show up as someone with editing rights. So from within the document online, the manage access is a very powerful tool to kind of see where these are going, who has access yet. In this case, I think Mary's going to have to open that link before she'll show up here. But she now has that access. Does that kind of answer your question, or what were you?
No, that was my question.
Oh, sure.
Simpler than what you asked.
Oh, okay.
All I wanted to know is just sending it to one person, just to share.
Yeah, and you can do that from the file open online, I believe. Let's open that from the desktop. That's a great question. Hold on, I'm my mistake. Hold on just a moment. And there it is, yeah. It's fully integrated.
And you can set it up so they can just
And there we
view
go.
it, or they can edit it as well. So if you're trying to share something with one of your coworkers, you just want to allow them to see it, they can do that. Or if you want them to edit it, they can do that as well, if you set it up that way.
From here, though, you can pick who else is it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can add.
Okay.
That's not going to pull up.
Put it down.
Let's try that. I think the online one does have a little bit better functionality. Let's open it. Yeah, that's the link that. Usually you'll get a great. It's just like sending an email with Outlook. It'll pull up your contacts pretty seamlessly. I think Al, we've covered. Are there any other questions on OneDrive?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, when I
Sure.
give access to, I want to share. So how many of those folks?
They'll receive an
They'll
email.
get an email. And then if they go into their OneDrive, there's a link off to the left that says file shared with me. And then you can see all the files people have shared.
Yes.
This was the question I was asking before. When you open it up like this, not all of the features are available.
That is correct. This
So
is.
people need to be aware, but when they open it up from web access, it will be a minimized version of Excel or Word or whatever.
That is correct.
And that you want to make sure that you change that. If there's a little link that says open it. Desktop.
Know exactly what you.
You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're
Mary's
saying.
editing the
I think that's blocking it. But I do know. Before we
You
move
know
on
what
from
I'm saying,
OneDrive.
right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
You
Let's,
can open it as a client versus giving it out. If you want to truly collaborate, you want to use the online apps altogether. That way it gives you that real-time collaboration.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's a big lag in it. And again, if you use the client version, it gives you more features, but it doesn't allow the collaboration seamlessly.
But you can open it in the client off your OneDrive. Just like pull up Excel, open other workbooks. I can look in my OneDrive for any folders. Just like since it's synced and it's basically accessible through File Explorer, you can open it through the search function.
But if you open that now,
You could mess with it, could you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is actually a full desktop application.
I mean, if she was still editing it, would you?
I should be able to actually.
Yeah, you should be able to.
I think I'm not sure why that button wasn't coming up, but
It
you
was
should
there
be able.
initially, that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah,
It disappeared.
I see what you're saying. I don't know why that button wasn't there in the online version, but you should be able to edit simultaneously. That is a feature sharing.
Most functional when it's online versus the option.
You mean as far as the sharing, or?
Well, what Al just said was that if you want to collaborate, use the online version because it's more efficient and it gets things together.
You're going to see the real-time changes in the
Yeah.
online version.
Yeah.
That is true. All right, if there's any other questions or no other questions on OneDrive, I think we're going to move back to all right, what comes with a subscription to Office 365? Now we've covered some of this, but you get all the apps that Microsoft has been making for 20, 25 years. You get them in their updated form, updated constantly. Unlike 2019 or 2016, these are forever copies as long as you have a subscription, and you will have the best versions, regular updates. That is something Microsoft wants to push for Office 365. What are the benefits? We've covered some of these again. Collaborate and shared documents. Like I say, you can install on PCs, Macs, tablets, and phones. The desktop version of Office 2019 is one PC, one install. So it's a local only, not shared, one PC, one machine. It's a forever copy, but it's a little bit of a legacy interface because sharing is obviously going to be more common going forward in the future. And we've covered the 1 terabyte of OneDrive cloud storage. Differences between Office 365 and Office 2016-19. We've covered those with some very, very, very good questions so far. We already covered that the apps function a little bit differently online than they do with the full desktop client. However, they do. You should feel free to use the desktop client on your desktop because that does work and play well with OneDrive, basically. As I covered, latest version, bug fixes, feature updates do not happen in 2016 or 2019. They do happen in Office 365. And as I covered before, you can install on more than one PC or Mac. If you want to get Office 2019 for your home PC, and I don't know if I'd recommend this if you have the subscription. If you're working here, I would recommend just using Office 365 at home. When I open an, yes, sir.
So I must have missed this, so 365 is what we now have on our computers here.
No, at work here, generally you're going to have installed Office 2016, or now we're updating to 2019. At home, if you download the apps, you will have Office 365. It's a subtle difference, but your home version, when you open it, will say Office 365. If you were to open Word, it will say Office 365 as it opens, and that's a full-featured version that's going to be updated constantly. Your Office 2019 or 2016 that you open here at work, it'll say Office 2016 or 2019 when you open it, and that's a version that we've managed. We have a managed subscription to that, but that's not going to be updated continuously. And in 3 years, you'll probably get Office 2022. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
So do I have? Can I do Office 365 because I work at SEC, or you're saying that's something that I pay for independently if I choose?
No, you have it because you work at SEC at home. You've got the full featured versions. Log in, download the apps from the online login on your hub. So you'd go to the hub, Office 365, how you generally access your email. There's a waffle in the top left. And if you hit that waffle, you can see all the apps available. There's also a download Office apps. We can actually, I think I was going to show you that. That's a great question.
Will that automatically, override any versions that are already on it?
It will. To be honest, I think that if you have something like 2013 or 2016, you might still be able to open that. So I'd have to check with you on that. I can get you. Well, I'll talk to you after we're done here. That's a great question. I think that you'll still have a legacy older copy, to be honest. One thing that I found the Office 365 apps to be excellent. That's what I get at home on Windows 7. I haven't updated to Windows 10 yet. I asked one of our PC techs here if I could remove 2019 from my PC and download Office 365, just so that I was working with the exact same thing here. And he said, no, just use 2019, he said. But the features that we get at home, it's not some dumbed down version. You go home, you download Office 365, you put the apps on your computer. That's the best Microsoft has to offer. And as long as you're at SCC, you'll always have that.
Okay, so this is Matt's browser Outlook. Went to the My Account under this little picture up here, under My Account, and sooner or later,
I had coffee.
here's where you can get your install Office. So it's the Office version of Office 365. It's not Office 2019. It's basically the same thing, but it's that version of the online Office 365. It downloads locally to your PC, and you can have up to 5 different installs.
So that's on my home computer.
Yes, that's what you'd install on your home computer.
From the hub. You go to the hub on my home computer.
Go to the hub, go to the Office 365 link there, and then once you're there, click on your profile up there, and then under your account settings, it'll keep track of how many installs you have as you install. So as Matt said, that's once you install that, it's updating every time Microsoft makes a change to their Office at all, it updates automatically. If you buy the perpetual copy of 2019 through our software site that Matt will show you in a second here, that's perpetual means it's yours to keep. You own it. It's going to update with all the 2019 updates. However, when you get to 2020, you're going to have to buy another version. So it updates within its version, but that's it. But it's a perpetual copy.
My understanding though is the downside, this probably is true with PowerPoint and Excel, but I know it's true with Word, that the Office 365 version of Word doesn't do everything we need it to do. It doesn't format properly.
Do you mean the Office?
Maybe it'll update eventually and catch up and past 2019, but it's not there now.
Are you accessing it online or through the desktop versions?
Yeah, the Office 365 online Word version
That is
pared down,
it
scaled
is.
down version. And it's frustrating with these, hand in documents that I want to be, formatted using the standard, like college English format, and they can't do it using the software we're giving them.
Well, they can if. Go ahead.
And what you were going to say probably is they can download the Office just like this. So they download it.
Should we be telling them that in our class that they need to go and they need to get Office 360? Is that part of new student orientation, how to download that?
It should be if it isn't, yes. Yeah, the students need to be told, get onto their Office account,
Download that stuff.
download Office to their local computer. Then they'll have the full version of Word, Excel, Microsoft products.
But I don't need to do this on my desktop.
No,
No.
your desktop should have, now, if you have 2016 on your desktop and you want 2019, you can request to the help desk that you want the newest version, they can push that
If
out.
I'm happy with what it's doing, I can just do this.
Yep. Just like if you have Windows 7 on your desktop and you want to go with Windows 10 again, let the help desk know, we can get that pushed out.
I would recommend upgrading to 2019 if you're going to integrate with OneDrive. I know that when I had 16, it did work, but 2019 is a little more seamless.
So call you guys to
Just call the help desk, and we will put a ticket in and get you updated probably by the next day. One thing I'll cover is, obviously, as long as you're an SCC employee or student, you have full access to the Office 365 full version. If you ever are going to leave SCC, you'll want to take advantage of this. You can get Office Professional Plus 2019, the full suite, for $15 while you're an SCC employee. That would mean that you would have access to that version they say forever. Of course, it becomes less relevant and less compatible as the years go by. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But when you, if you were going to leave SCC, this would be a great deal to take advantage of. $15 for the entire Office suite, as long as you want to use it. I mean, look how relevant 2016 still is. That is if you don't want to keep paying for the subscription. Paying for the subscription is an option as well, as Al was saying. Frequently asked questions. What if I use older browsers and versions of Office that are not on mainstream support? Office 365 is designed to work with updated browsers, the latest versions. If you use older browsers, you may see some loss of functionality. Microsoft will not deliberately prevent you from connecting to the service, but the quality of your experience it will diminish over time if you're not updating your browser, perhaps. And they will not provide code fixes for that. You'll have, of course, whenever you call tech support and say something's not working, the first thing we're going to ask is everything updated? Will Office be identical on a PC, Mac, or mobile device? That's been covered, and the answer is no. They'll provide an ongoing, evolving amount of similarity and functionality. Yes? Yeah, I got one out.
So adjuncts are set up just like any other college employee. So they have access to all the Microsoft products.
That's great. As long as you're employed, you will absolutely have all that access. And like we were saying earlier, I don't know if you were here for that, but the Office 365 is the full-fledged version. And our Pro Plus subscription is excellent. We've got access to just about everything, and a dozen apps that we haven't even covered here that Microsoft is kind of rolling out. So like, if you've got that, you've got everything Microsoft has to offer, or at least their top tier. When is internet access required for Office? Well, of course, to initially install Office on your PC, you're going to have to stay connected for the 15 to 30 minutes that process might take. It took less time on my computer. Time may vary. If you're accessing documents on OneDrive that are not locally managed by your file folder in your desktop app, then you are going to need to be online, of course, to benefit from the automatic upgrades. And this next one, I don't know who this would ever happen to. I can't imagine staying offline for 31 days. But if you do, you're going to lose editing and creating ability on Office 365 until you log in again. As we were discussing before,
I can see it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What does that even mean? If you're not logged in, how do you use it?
Well, if this last line kind of covers that. Remember when we synced everything to our PC early on, we chose yes to sync. You can actually use all those files, whether you're online or not, which is one of the huge advantages over our OneDrive. You can do that, at home. Everything that you've been working on, you lose your internet for whatever reason, it's still there, and as soon as you get that internet back, it's going to sync up. So you have to be online to sync. You have to be online to access O365 online, but you do not have to be online to use the files if you sync it in the manner that we described. And of course, like Al was saying, this is something that you can call the help desk at any time for these questions. We can log in remotely. On an SCC computer, we can be on your desktop in 5 seconds. Don't hesitate. That's what we're there for, definitely. Yes, sir.
To understand that if I've got a Word document on my laptop or someplace,
Sure.
I'm fishing something.
Okay.
And not logging in for 15 days, perfectly reasonable.
I would try for it. Maybe even a bucket list goal.
But so I got a Word document that I'm working on, and 31 days go by. I can no longer work on that document.
Potentially, if you take your laptop on a 45-day vacation, on day 31, you might have to find an access point. Use your cell phone as an access point, just to get. I mean, it is theoretically possible. I guess at 31 days, you'll probably you'll still be able to access it.
I've never had anybody have this problem, but
I can see that.
Microsoft documents it that way.
But even if you check like your work email, that would count.
That would count.
Well, yeah, because you need to be online for that. It would update automatically and restart your 31-day clock.
As long as you check in some way, shape, or form via the internet.
Yeah, any internet connection at any time with a sufficient length for the update is going to, so you're only going to need to worry about that if you were literally, say you hit your laptop's wireless adapter off button and leave it like that for 32 days, then yeah, you are going to lose access. But even a cell phone, if you were on that hypothetical vacation in Death Valley, say, even a cell phone connection, if you can get it there, acting as an access point would get you updated. So yeah, like I said, that's a huge advantage of Office 365. When it's synced, as we discussed earlier, you can access your files offline, which for SCC users in specifically, that's probably the biggest advantage over the OneDrive. We had some issues with the OneDrive a couple weeks ago, and I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but some people were without file access for several hours. They couldn't edit, they couldn't save. This just would not happen with OneDrive. Al's going to go over a few OneNote applications for us, or notes on that.
Actually, we're about out of time for the day. I know that we scheduled an hour and a half. We don't want to keep you too long. We are going to do this again, next week?
See, there's I think the 16th or the 19th. I think ours is the 19th.
I think it's the 19th. We'll continue this conversation, but one of the things I do want to go over is the use of OneNote. It's another one of the apps on the waffle that we have. I've got a good demonstration set up. These are the things I use OneNote for. I think in your job, it would be very valuable to use OneNote. Also, Microsoft Forms, used for surveys and other things like that. And if you don't have one now on your phone, install a QR code reader. We'll do a little demo with a QR code, and we'll save that for next week. So those are two of the things we want to cover yet. We're out of time for today, but we'll plan on doing that next week. We also are going to have, later on this week, we're going to have a security presentation that will go over some of the things you need to look for your typical phishing scams, how to be more secure with your email and just your network behavior in general.
It says on this little schedule, the one that I printed, is 9 to 10:30.
10:30. Well, we don't want to keep you too long. I can go over that if you want to. I can give you some OneNote tips.
When's your security?
Oh, we can go over some. We do have some security items that we can present.
I just want to know when you were going to make the question.
That was on the 16th.
Oh, that's the 16th one. That's right. That's the official one. That's why we kind of treated that as optional for today.
Yeah. And then we want to hold their new card. I don't know when that one is.
Okay, so how many people in here actually use OneNote or at all? We've got one person in the audience here that uses OneNote. I use it a lot. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a notebook. It's an electronic notebook. Probably the biggest thing I use, and it sounds really simple, elementary, but I use it for clipping any screenshot that I want to share with somebody. Typically, people use Snagit. There's a clip feature within Windows itself, but as long as you run OneNote at least one time on your PC, let me stop here. I'll use Matt's account. Let's just go to this. If I wanted to send a screenshot to somebody, I hit the Windows flag key, Shift and S, those three keys together, and you can cut whatever you want. Say I wanted to cut that and send that to somebody. It copied it to the clipboard. You can send it to your OneNote file, but then let's go to Shift and what? It's Windows key Shift S. There's all kinds of special S's in Sam. There's all kinds of different key combinations it does for you. Let me go to his email. And again, this is the web version of email, but I could just simply paste that in. To an email. So it's a really clever way to get graphics and text into an email or into your course information. So that's one of the biggest things Question?
that part of OneNote, or that just the?
It's built into OneNote. That key combination will not work unless you run OneNote at least one time and configure it.
Where do we find OneNote?
OneNote is, assuming you have Windows 10, it's in your OneNote 2016 up on the left-hand side. Don't confuse that with OneNote itself. There's actually two different versions of OneNote. There's a OneNote built into Windows 10 and OneNote 2016, which is our OneNote.
And then there's the optional.
What's that?
And then on the waffle, there's that class.
There's a class notebook, and that's, I'll stay away from that for now, but that's very well, not very complicated. It's a whole different deal. Class notebook is really meant for you setting up a notebook that many people are connected to, so everybody has a collaboration space. Then they have a private area that they can put their own notes in that only they can see. So it's kind of like OneNote on steroids, much more complex. Another thing I'd like to use OneNote for, and I can't really show you very well here, but if you went to an email, and in the client version, it shows up a little bit better, but you can actually go to the send that email to OneNote. And so if you're trying to keep track of maybe 20 different emails under a certain subject, rather than putting them into a folder under your Outlook, you can create a section in your OneNote file and keep all your emails on that subject. So I use that a lot. I probably have 20 different notebooks on 20 different subjects for keeping track of where I'm at with some emails. And within those notebooks, then, it isn't just emails, but as I'm doing spreadsheets, questionnaires, things that are not email related, you can put all that in that same notebook section for that subject. So that's another real handy feature. You can download the OneNote app on your phone. So, and again, this is kind of a personal thing, but I'm in my garage working on something and I need the air filter for my lawnmower. So I can take a picture of that air filter. OneNote accepts pictures. So then when I'm at the parts store, I can bring up my OneNote pictures, or I can be at my desktop and look at that same picture because they all synchronize together. So again, shopping lists, task lists, for people, if you have a lot of things to do in your office, you can keep track of all those tasks on OneNote as well. How do you sign in? That can be a tricky thing too, because OneNote by itself, if you run the native app, wants to go to the personal OneNote. If you go to OneNote 2016, then that's the college account. So it's a little bit tricky. We'd have to walk you through that probably if it isn't happening for you.
2019.
Probably so. I'll say that tongue in cheek. I don't have 2019 on my Surface actually, so I don't have that experience to tell you, but I'm guessing there is a 2019 one.
I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
let-
2019
yeah.
and access to OneNote.
Okay, so that's what I use again, and the beauty is that it does synchronize on all your devices. You can actually record audio with it, and if you do the right checkbox, it will search that audio and try to reverse it into text, and you can actually have it search for certain words. So if you had a 10-minute lecture, let's say, and you wanted to search for when you said Franklin Roosevelt, it would be able to tell you where at in that conversation it was. So it does some pretty cool things, but that's a little bit beyond. The other one that I like to use a lot, and this is for surveys, it's the Forms app. And it's just simply a lightweight tool that allows you to create an easy online form to collect responses in real time. And you can deliver that a number of different ways, but let me just go into the demo here. And I'm using Matt's account. So I clicked on forms out of the waffle, and you can click on new form, come up with a title, and then it's just start adding questions. They can be choice, multiple choice, they can be a text-based answer, a rating, or even entering dates. Let me go back. This is one I put together quickly. I did this morning when I first got here. Rate your skill using Microsoft Office is the first question, and that's a rating. What version of Office are you using? And do you have a security code on your phone? So those are just 3 simple questions I wanted to find out. And so all I'd have to do is say share, and I could email that to you, but then you'd have to get that email and you'd have to click on the email, which is okay. You can embed that into something you want to send out, like Paul was asking earlier. You can make it so they can only respond if they're within the college organization. So they'd have to have a southeast.edu domain. Or you can say anybody can respond. And this is what I like to do is put a QR code in there. How many people have a QR code reader on their phone? Okay, so you could have everybody in the audience ahead of time install their QR code reader app, and then bring that up on the next slide. Like so. So if you take your QR reader code, I don't know if you have one. You happen to have one. So I can bring that up. And it did scan the QR code. If I open the link, so there's the survey right there. So I can say I'm probably about a 5.5. I've got 2016, and yes, I do have a security code. So I just answered those survey questions on my phone, and now when I go to the demo form, I do have to submit it. Sorry, didn't submit yet. So then I go to my responses, and evidently somebody else has already beat me to it. But you can see now I'm getting responses. So this is kind of like Poll It Anywhere, pretty slick. And it does give you some graphical representation of what the responses are. The beauty of it is you could download this to an Excel spreadsheet if you wanted to do some graphing based on the answers, so on and so forth. Or if you needed to export them someplace else.
Can you put a link on your Canvas for them to go out for reading class?
You could do that, yes, using this.
But they have to have forms on there as well.
Say that again?
They have to have Microsoft, this Forms app on their device.
No, this is a browser. This is a web browser.
So they got the link, it comes up in their browser.
So you could send somebody the link through an email. You could write down the link, but then they have to type in all the stuff, not make any mistakes. The QR code is a really slick way to do it. It works nicely. And evidently from really, really far away, you were able to do the QR code. So that's great.
If I want to do surveys in my classroom, so I just send them the link, Canvas, and they can open it up.
You could post that link within the class if you want to do that, yes. That would work. And then and again, so we did this. These are the responses. I can go in here. If this is a survey you use over and over and over, I can go ahead and hit the ... here, and I can say delete all responses. So I start the survey from scratch. So if it's something you set up, you can reuse it, reuse it, reuse it.
Okay, so I like to do a quick check in the morning when class starts, see how many kind of know something about what we're covering in class that day for that too.
Sure.
You update it as, okay, I want to use it in the lecture, update it as I go through, update the questions as I go through.
It's dynamic. like I said, Matt and I put this together, sitting down 2 minutes before our presentation, put these questions in.
If you could add questions as you were going through.
Yeah, so maybe I delete all the responses. I want to start over. Okay, so now I go back to the questions. And so maybe you put a text-based question in here and say, what did you think of the election today? Question mark. Okay. And it's that simple.
Do you have to delete your responses before you do this?
If you're adding questions, I'm not quite sure what would happen.
Could you put one question? Maybe there's you know, just click this link. Question.
Yep.
What is the link?
If you go into the share option here, you can copy that link. So now it's ready to paste. So if I bring it into, let's say, OneNote. So that's the link. And that's going to your form on your Office 365 environment. So it's making that a public accessible link. They can't change the survey, although you can set it up where you collaborate a survey between a group of people. But now, anytime somebody clicks on that link, because I said anybody can do it, that's also another beautiful thing. If you set it up where it has to be within the organization, it tells you who completed each particular response. So if you tried to identify who said they don't have this installed or that installed or answered this wrong, you can do that. But these are pretty much anonymous.
Now, there's nothing to prevent somebody from responding.
I think there's a way that you can say, if it's within the organization and you target it that way, I think they can do it where they only get one chance from their profile. But I'm not sure on that.
But if it was within the organization, you could see that Johnny put in 6.
You're correct, yes. So that was kind of we had a few more things to go over as far as phishing examples, that kind of thing. We'll put that on our security presentation. But again, if you need help with any of these, sit down, you can't get it to work. That's what we're here for, is to help you out with them. Yes?
If we do have a question in the next day or two or whatever, you want us to send it to the help desk, call, or specific.
Either call or email the help desk, put in a ticket, and we can have somebody come out and visit with you.
And then when you were talking about downloading apps, are you talking about from the App Store on our phone? To download like the OneDrive?
Yes, if you want. In fact, I have OneDrive on my phone as well. I have OneDrive on my phone. I have the OneNote app. I just went to I have an Android, so I went to the Google Play Store and downloaded that particular app.
And then you log in if you're at Southeast Up.
Yes, and actually I have both accounts set up on my phone and my computer. I have my personal and my school, so I can, do whatever I want on my phone.
Thanks, everyone, for coming down.
Thank you.
I have a question about my specific computer.
Okay.
You're mentioning different versions of Office.